I was having a little look at the research and seeing what are some of the things that stand out, and just some of the things that stand out as barriers, differences, attitudes, circumstances. I've picked out just a few of the recommendations within Best Start this morning that we can have a look at how we might start to tackle some of those things. So one of the first things that was identified was length of parental visits, parents being able to be on the unit. If parents aren't there, they can't do these things. You know, we need parents to actually be on a unit to breastfeed, to do kangaroo care, to be involved with their babies. And one of the things that was highlighted to us was that actually cost is a barrier to parents being able to be with their babies. The charity Bliss did some research and they found that 1 in 3 parents said that the cost of travel affected how often they were able to come and see their baby. That's a huge number. One of the recommendations was that we needed to have a look at this. We needed to review variation and come to a nationally agreed policy on how we might approach expenses. So what did we do? Well, on the 1st of April this year, the Scottish Government launched a £1.5 million fund for parents to support them with their travel costs, to support them with their meal costs. This scheme basically allows parents to reclaim the cost of their travel, to claim up to £8.50 a day for costs against meals. At the moment we're not including accommodation in this, although we're acutely aware that accommodation is an issue. The reason we haven't included it at this stage, there's a couple of reasons. One, part of the bigger redesign of services means that if we did some of this now, we'd probably have to change it all again in 6 to 12 months' time. So we've held back on that a little bit. And one of the other things is we don't quite know what the uptake of this scheme is going to be at the moment. So we've launched it on the basis of it being meals and travel, but we're reviewing it in 6 months and 12 months to see what the uptake's like, to see how parents are finding it and what difference it's making. And we might be able to expand it at a later date. So if anyone wants any more details specifically about the scheme, the web address is up there. Hopefully on your units you should already have heard about it. And we've already started to hear back from people that this is making a difference and that people are claiming and people are starting to see a difference as a result. Another barrier, inconsistent information and communication. 14 different boards doing 14 different things, or even 3 different regions doing 3 different things. One of the recommendations, I won't read it all out, but is that actually we need a single managed care network across Scotland, a managed clinical network, to bring everyone together, to reduce some of the barriers, and to start to think about actually doing things once for Scotland. Why do things 14 times? Why do things 3 times when we can do them once and do them well? So at the moment we have 3 regional MCNs, West, North and South East and Tayside, and they've been around since about 2010, 2011, and they've been doing some great work, and we're not going to lose that. We're really keen to carry on some of the good work that's been happening in the regions, but to also join that together to move to a single network. So we're taking that forward with NSD. NSD have a national network management service, and we're taking it forward through them. We're at the moment going through the second stage of a 2-stage approval process for that, and as long as we get through that, they will take the lead on running the network, but government will still be very involved in that, and we're still really keen to just make that something that works for people, to reduce the variation, to support innovation, to improve pathways. We're reasonably good at doing things within our region pathway-wise, but when it comes to nationally, that some of the things fall down at the moment. And the single network will also be able to take forward some of the recommendations within Best Start as we continue. Some of that work will be ongoing, and we're keen to include that as we go forward. We're also setting up a national maternity network, We don't quite know exactly what that's going to look like at the moment. We're still in the earlier stages with that, but we're also very keen that the neonatal network and the maternity network are linked up, and the recommendations within Best Start say they should link up at least once a year, but probably more than that as things go on in the future. Next barrier, lack of facilities and lack of empowerment. So recommendation 43, parents should be involved in the decision making. And I suppose this is kind of the key one for today, that last line, encouraging kangaroo care and early support for breastfeeding. And it's kind of if anyone needs backing that they should be doing this in their units, here it is, recommendation 43 for you. And that is really key to breaking down barriers and empowering parents. So what are we doing for this? Well, this is one of the local recommendations. This is one of the ones that we've said, actually, there's things you can be doing locally on this, and things boards are already doing locally. Local leads have committed to taking forward some of those 23 recommendations by December, and this is one of them. And they've committed that by December they will report back on how they're providing facilities to support breastfeeding and breast milk feeding. They're also committed to demonstrating the quality framework. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute, but the quality framework, subject to some people's believing, isn't dead and buried. It's still very relevant, it's still key. I'll talk about that in a second. Also, as part of this recommendation, we're continuing to support UNICEF Breastfeeding Friendly, and we're really pleased to see that one of the units has got their accreditation now, and others are working towards that. And we have also provided some funding to Bliss to roll out their baby friendly accreditation. Their baby friendly accreditation goes a little bit further than UNICEF. UNICEF is part of it, but then it includes also expanding it to integrated care, family-centred care, and parent involvement. So we've given them a bit of funding to help do that. They're already starting to work with 1 or 2 units. We've heard from about 5 more units that are interested, and we're supporting them to take that work forward. So back to the quality framework. Some people think that the quality framework is dead and buried now that Best Start is out. That is not true. Quality framework is still relevant, it's still important, and we still expect people to be taking these things forward. 3 of the key points within quality framework that fit within the local recommendation for supporting parents. I won't read them all out, but providing parents with information, dedicated facilities, and these are all things that our expectation is that should be taken forward, and we're looking to see how we can support boards to do this. So, keeping mums and babies together, kind of touched on it in some of the other areas, but it's a really key recommendation, is that we keep mums and babies together whenever we can, however we can. And local our early adopters are leading on postnatal neonatal care and transitional care, and taking forward some more work around that. Keeping mum and the baby close to home when they can, knowing that that's not always possible, but whenever they're moved, seeing whether we can move babies back close to home, and also discharging babies out into the community with community support as and when we can as well. All these things allow parents to spend more time with their babies, allow mums to be with their babies more. So I don't think anyone would let me get up on the stage today without mentioning this recommendation. It's a very long one that outlines the redesign of neonatal services, and it's probably my most asked question, is so what's happening with this? And this is the recommendation that essentially says we need to keep our smallest and sickest babies in a smaller number of units. So looking at changing the neonatal model to have 3 to 5 units that care for our smallest, sickest babies, and then the rest of our units, reprofiling those a little bit so they can take some of the other babies. So what are we doing about it? The perinatal subgroup that I mentioned earlier are looking at this at the moment. They're agreeing an options appraisal, and they're just going through that options appraisal process at the moment. We hope that they'll have that concluded by the end of the summer, and then they will provide a recommendation to the programme board, who in turn will provide their recommendation to the Cabinet Secretary. And we're very much hoping that the Cabinet Secretary will have a final decision on where those 3 to 5 units are going to be by the end of this or later in this year. And then after that we'll start to move to the transition process. And why does that matter for this today? Well, it's important that we think about how we're changing services, because as we move into that transitional process, there's an opportunity for us to harness things like parental accommodation, facilities, and think about those things as we're changing services. And we'll consider those things as we pick units, and as we consider how we reprofile units, what facilities do people need to improve breastfeeding, to improve kangaroo care, to improve patient-centred care, to keep families together. And all these things are being considered as part of the process. It also means that we'll have national pathways, and we'll be able to do some of this linked up thinking a little bit more, hopefully, which again was identified as a barrier. And also, if our smallest SISCC babies are in a smaller number of units, we're able to keep staff competencies on looking after those smallest babies up to a premium. And it means that if we're thinking about taking forward kangaroo care, for example, if you only see a very, very tiny baby every few months, perhaps, then actually the skills for feeling enabled and empowered to do kangaroo care is less than if you're seeing it more. And we're able to kind of harness some of those competencies and skills. So it is a big one. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about it. I'm happy to answer some questions if people want to grab me on it. Although there's not a great deal more I can say about it at this time. We are moving forward with it. So brace yourself, change is coming. Hopefully it's not coming at you, it's coming with you. We very much hope that Best Start isn't something Scottish Government is doing to you. We want to do this with you, we want to continue to work with you, and we're really keen to include boards and involve units, and see what we can do to help move forward some of these recommendations. That's just a few of the recommendations. There are 76. I couldn't possibly talk you through 76 this morning. We'd be here forever, and you might be asleep. But yeah, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. There's my contact details. I'm actually on leave for a couple of weeks after today, so I'm running away conveniently after this. But if you've got anything burning, if you email the Best Start mailbox, one of my colleagues will get back to you. Otherwise, I'll get back to you when I'm back from leave. We've also got a blog which updates, and a newsletter which will update you on what's going on at Best Start. And if you want to be added to the newsletter, just email the Best Start mailing list, and we'll pop you on that. And we've got a Twitter handle as well if anyone's interested.